In this video, we're given two vectors as row vectors, and I want to get their magnitudes in part A. I want to find their dot product in part B, and I want to compute the angle between them using the dot product in part C. So to get the magnitudes, I just use the Pythagorean theorem. Another way to look at this is that I would get the square magnitude of a vector if I dot it into itself. So just to mix things up a little, I'm going to talk about it that way. V dotted into itself would be -2 times -2 plus a -3 times a -3. Just pairwise multiplying the components. That gives me a 13. Then I need to square root the result to get the magnitude of V. So that's root 13. Similar for W, I dot it into itself. That gives me a 1 squared plus a 5 squared. And that's 26. So the magnitude of W must be the square root of 26. In part B, I get the dot product of these two vectors. So we pairwise multiply the components of these. And I have a -2 times 1 for the product of the x components. And I have a -3 times 5 for the product of the y components. And that's a -2 minus 15. So my dot product comes out to -17. Finally, in part C, we're going to use the dot product to find the angle between these two vectors. And this comes from the geometric definition of the dot product. V dot W is the product of the magnitudes of the two vectors multiplied by the cosine of the angle between them. And now I know V dot W. That's -17. And I know the magnitude of each vector. That's root 13 and root 26. And the cosine of theta is the only unknown left here. So we solve for cosine theta. And I'll go ahead and switch to a decimal approximation now. And so cosine theta is approximately -0.925. This means theta is the angle whose cosine is -0.925. In other words, the inverse cosine of that number. And to 3 sig figs, I get an angle between these two vectors of 158 degrees. If you enjoyed this video, or at least found it useful, check out another one by clicking one of the links on the left, or click the Zach's Lab logo on the right to explore dozens of physics and math playlists. As always, you can leave your questions, comments, and requests in the comments section below, and I'll get back to you within 24 hours. Thanks for watching Zach's Lab, and best of luck on your math and physics journey.